This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. It's that time of day for the first of 2 live safaris that we come to you in your very own living room. You might not be in your living room. And what a great start. It's not all about the big things. We have a rather small yet big katydid on my arm, and I'm over the moon, cleaning itself. So, of course, we're going to be coming to you live from many different locations, all of us bumbling to see what we can find. I hope you're excited. I definitely am. So everyone, it's that time of day. Get ready for your live safari through the African bush. Welcome aboard, everyone. There's 3 of us on this vehicle, and now you guys are here too. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. My heart is melting. I'm falling in love with this little guy. My name is Lauren. I do have info on camera today, and we're almost at the hyena den. But I obviously just wanted to stop and show you this gorgeous katydid. Now, what's so gorgeous about it is he's cleaning. If Info can just get us a super close see, he's cleaning his antenna. He's using all those, I don't know if I can twist my arm anymore. Insects do groom, they do clean, and that's what this little alien is doing right now. And katydids actually are in the same family as crickets and grasshoppers. And this family is Orthoptera. So they're very similar, but I'm just going to point something out. This hind leg, you see, that gives you a clue that it's very closely related to grasshopper, but it's very thin, not much muscle. So you can tell it's not a grasshopper, but it looks very similar. And if we just look here, look at the remarkable detail of how it's trying to blend in with the leaf. Isn't that incredible? Camouflage in the animal kingdom. So of course, this is your live safari. This action that is happening right now is live. And that means that you can talk to us. We are interactive, so please do send in your comments and questions. You can use the hashtag WildEarth, or you can use @FC on the YouTube chat, or you can head over to the WildEarth website, register, ask your questions there, or kids, please do send in your questions via email. Look at this. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Oh, I'm overjoyed. What a lovely, lovely start. You can see all those intricate mouthpieces. They don't have an upper jaw and a lower jaw like us. It's very much modified for different insects. And he's just cleaning. He's groomed both his front legs. He's done his antenna. You were the sweetest thing. We actually had a katydid the other night, but I couldn't really see because it was nighttime. Sorry, Gwen, I'm just adjusting my volume here one more time with that comment. But you can see clearly this is not a grasshopper. Janet, you're saying that is a big bug. Actually, we will come back to that. The word bug is an interesting word because not all insects are technically true bugs. But yes, we use that word very casually and just call them all bugs. But he's really big. I mean, I'm going to put my porcupine pointer next to him. You can see how big he really is. He's huge. And the details really in the face. He's got a very small head compared to the thorax and the abdomen. And you can see his eyes. Are you able to see those eyes, Impo? Very, very detailed. Or what if I do this? I'm going to move. Are you ready? I'm going to move my arm. What if I do this and you can get right into his face? You're on camera, little guy. You're getting a good look at the detail in that face, the antenna that are moving independently, the eyes, which appear to be striped, and all those mouth parts that he's using, of course, to clean. Not feeding, he's just cleaning. It's morning time after all. And lots of different predators will feed upon a bug this size. And that's why he blends in. Sits on top of a tree, maybe a combretum or an apple leaf, one with big leaves where he can easily sort of blend in. He was on the vehicle this morning. And for some reason, insects take a little bit of a liking to me. But we will find the most perfect apple leaf for him and put him back on it. Unless you want to bumble with us. Do you want to bumble? Can you see the detail in him grooming? That is just phenomenal. Most people think insects wouldn't groom, but they absolutely do. So, of course, we're about 50 meters away from the hyena den, so that's exactly where we're going to go. But for now, let's take a look at the weather across all our locations.
Good morning and welcome to andBeyond in Ngala, everyone. And look what we have managed to find. First up this morning, a beautiful bird of prey sitting at the top of a marula tree. You can see behind him there's a bit of cloud cover this morning, which has meant that it's been quite a nice warm start to the day at Ngala. Cloud cover keeping that warmth in. And an eagle, or this bird that we're looking at right now, is a brown snake eagle. And I'm sure you'll be able to see those beautiful orange eyes staring off into the distance, and that very big brown head. When we saw it from a distance, we knew exactly what bird it was starting up because of the way its perch is sitting nice and upright this morning. My name is Nick, and behind camera we've got Odie this morning. And as mentioned, it's a beautiful day here on Ngala. Nice and overcast this morning, meaning that it is quite warm, but I think it will keep nice and cool going forward later into the morning. Back onto the bird of prey, brown snake eagle, which I'm sure roosted here last night, right at the top of the marula tree. And this morning you could see it looking out into the distance. I'm sure it's getting ready to start its day. A bird like this won't mind the overcast conditions too much. It's quite a light bird on the wing and can fly in most conditions. And from the top of the tree where it's perched currently, it is more than likely looking for food. Primary source of food being snakes. And I read a couple days ago that when they do catch their snakes, often they will try and grab them around the head, and then interestingly will try and pull that head off when they're on the wing and in the air flying, and then swallow that snake whole, which is, it's quite a difficult task to think that they are able to complete up in the sky. Now you can see that really nice big head, that really sharp bill as well, and as I mentioned earlier, those beautiful orange eyes. They've got incredibly good vision as well, so they'll be able to spot snakes from quite a far distance away. You can see how this one is turning its head around, scanning all the areas. I mean, it's difficult to think that they are able to spot snakes in this time of year when the grass is so thick and the snakes are moving through the undergrowth, but they seem to do it quite well. I was with Eric and Dan the other day, and we actually saw one on the ground feeding on a boomslang. But we're gonna keep heading on, keep looking for anything that we can find this morning, but we're gonna send you over to Djuma with Andrew, who's quite keen to say good morning.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve again this morning of a Sunday out here, where it's pretty cloudy as you can see on the far east. The sun has actually rise already, but it's not actually heavy cloud though. My name's Andrew. On camera I have Davi this morning, and we decide to come into this point to look around to see if we can find anything. And this is where we last night, left that Karo the leopard moving around into the bush. We couldn't find her again, so good to start to look around, as we can see Impala now is standing right here, looking at the whole bachelor group of male impalas. And it just looks like they're all aware of our presence being here. They feed and they just freeze, stop, look around, listening. Carol, so you're saying this is how they're looking in a herd. So as a small group of bachelor group, which means that there could be more around, or maybe more of a males. But it's just kind of like still very early morning for them. They're already in a very tall grass. Very interesting, there's one that is actually very much on the lookout. Even the rest, they are busy browsing around in that bush. And chewing its cud, standing up. So I don't think it has seen anything else. Otherwise, you would hear a lot of, shouting around here. And then they will be doing that, running around or getting out in that area. So I don't, if it's something maybe they haven't noticed it yet. It's always so important for her. So Daniel, you're asking, do impala struggle to get the food during the winter? No, they don't. That's why they're one of the success animals out here, where they mix feed the animals. So in the winter where there's not much grasses, but these trees will drop their leaf down and these pods down, and the impala will go grab them from the ground and feed on them when there's not much of grass. So they tend to feed on any of the plants that is in this low field. So we're going to carry on and do the search around here, see if we find any cats or maybe a herd of buffaloes to put in the show for everyone to see. Then I'm going to continue now to the east to check this northern border. So hopefully we find a kara or other maybe cats around for everyone.
It's the month of March and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
Riverbeds are a great way to find water and look for places where elephant have excavated hollows. You can then dig into the sand, and after a couple of feet you should find damp sand which then can be squeezed out or siphoned off for water. And with water being one of our scarcest resources, it is a good idea to conserve water where and how you can.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that. It's truly, truly magical.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Alright, so we are going to continue to search around for anything we can find in this area. Now we're working the property of a Bevelshoek just to see what is going to be out about. Well, last night was a herd of buffalo that I attempted to find them, but I couldn't find them yesterday. Maybe they were in one of these thick bushes. Correct. So you're asking if there isn't a line in Djuma at the moment. The line that was sighted yesterday was out of reach for Djuma, and we're in Manyeleti boundary there. So, but this morning nobody located anything. So, but it's because it's the start of a day, so nobody have moved around so much. Yeah, with the buffalo coming in, is it possible that there are also lions being attracted into this area? So yeah, with the buffalo being around since yesterday, well, I didn't actually saw these buffalo, but we had evidence of one male that was lying inside to that pond yesterday, so it's actually to tell us that it's got to be more of the buffaloes in this area. So I'm going to carry on search. Hopefully find something. I'm going to be sending you across to Nick, who is at a watering hole.
So welcome back, everyone. And as you can see, we've come towards one of the watering holes in the east. More by chance than anything else. There were a whole lot of impalas that were alarm calling on the northeastern side of this watering hole, and we did go and have a look. Potentially a leopard moving around there, but we were not able to find it, unfortunately. But we have managed to find some hippos, which are almost a guarantee in this water hole. They are here almost every single morning. And you can see the ones that Odie's currently on, just one with its head out and then one that had its nostrils out as well. And I've seen at least 6 or 7 hippos in the watering hole this morning, and I'm sure they are quite relieved to be back in their home for the day, as they have been moving around pretty much all of this morning. All of last night feeding, probably moving quite big distances, although there is lots of grass this time of year, so they won't have to move as far as a hippo would have to move in winter. And in front you can see there's another 2 there that are coming up and going under as well. Nice to start the morning with them. And in the last time when I was with everyone, I didn't mention my plan for this morning, so sorry about that. But we started off in the eastern parts of Ngala, just seeing if there were any tracks of any lions coming in on the east, potentially the white lions that have been outside the property for the past few days. We think that they have been in the Manyuleti Private Game Reserve, and hoping that they will come back to Ngala at some stage in the coming days. And now we've moved towards sort of more the central east of the reserve, and I'm sure a lot of you will know this watering hole quite well. It is called Clara Dam, and always a good spot to look for hippos. Sometime later today, I'm pretty sure these clouds are going to burn off. Might be a good bet to come here this afternoon first thing, and there might be a chance of finding some elephants swimming. Oof. So that is, Safari Kitty, that's a very good question. How many babies a hippo can have in its lifetime? Their gestation period, I think, is about, you'd have to say, between 16, 17 months, somewhere around there. I'm going to just get my book and double check. And they can live, I think, to about 40 years in the wild. So if I had to take a wild guess, I would say 10, between 8 and 10, maybe, probably 8 and 10. But as mentioned, that is a guess on my behalf. I think it might be relatively close to the correct number. There is one that has a baby in this watering hole at the moment, and we'll check now. It doesn't say in this book that I'm currently looking at, so I will have to just have a look. Do a little bit of research and get back to you, but if I had to guess, I'd say between 8 and 10. I could be off by a long way, but as mentioned, I'm not 100% sure about that. But it is a good question. And this waterhole has 2 resident hippo bulls in it as well. One that's a little bit more dominant. I think he might be in the middle of the pod there that we're currently looking at. Oh, there he just popped up. He's a bit closer towards us. But did you see how that one hippo was resting its head on the back of another one? That looks like it might be a younger one as well. And then there's a very small one just to the right of that. Actually 2 or 3 small ones there. Can you see how they are with their backs right out of the water? So they won't be floating there. That'll be a part of the watering hole that's a little bit shallower. And they will just be lying with their legs on the bottom of the dam or watering hole on the ground in the water, and it'll be a good spot where they'll be able to rest and catch up on some much needed rest, because as mentioned, they would have been feeding throughout the night, and then when they do come towards the watering holes for the majority of the day, that's when they tend to rest and relax a little bit. Some birds in the distance as well. Don't know if Odie will manage to get them on camera, but behind the big leadwood, just to the right, there are a couple helmeted guinea fowl, and then the resident Egyptian geese, some white-faced whistling ducks as well. Not too many of them though, they're quite sparse all over the dam at the moment. Also just nice to enjoy some of the sounds around the watering hole this morning, so I might just be quiet for a minute or two, let everyone just enjoy think Bianca was asking if hippos can breathe in the water. So they are mammals. They do need to breathe oxygen. So they can't breathe when they're underwater, and that's why you'll often see them sleep in the water. Sorry, I misheard that. They can sleep in the water. They're not going to sleep underwater as well because they do need to breathe every couple of minutes, every 5 or so minutes. So what they'll do is like those ones we're seeing there where they're resting on a sandbank. There they will be able to sleep with at least their nostrils sticking out the water because they do need to breathe at pretty much all times. But as mentioned, let's just take a few minutes to listen to the beautiful noises that are going on around us. So I was hoping that we might get one of the territorial calls from the dominant bull hippo in this waterhole during that little bit of silence, but unfortunately he didn't come to the party. But there were lots and lots of birds calling. Currently a red-billed oxpecker flying over and calling, black-crowned chagras in the distance, Swainson spurfowls, blacksmith lapwings, emerald-spotted wood doves. Just heard the red-billed buffalo weavers, the resident flock of them calling as well. So birds just starting to get active this morning with that brown snake eagle. Mentioned how the clouded conditions won't affect their activity too much, but other birds, most of the bird species will tend to wait a little bit until it gets a bit lighter and until the sun starts to come through, or at least the light comes through the clouds a little bit more, and that is what has happened this morning. So you on a normal day, 5 o'clock, 5:30, if it's clear, the birds will be chirping early in the morning, and this morning they started just a little bit later because of the overcast conditions. And I'm sure they did not mind that too much as well. They get a little bit of extra rest. 3 banded plovers as well. But otherwise not too much going on this morning. With the large amount of water that's been around from all the good rains that we've had this year, you won't tend to see too many animals coming down to these bigger watering holes. It's not really, unless it's on their feeding path. They tend to drink at puddles and little pans all over the reserve. But we're going to continue searching for some other animals, some more terrestrial animals, not these hippos in the water. But we're going to send you over to Lauren, who's got another tiny animal for you.
I've just put my catitude back in the natural environment. Hashtag separation anxiety. My beagle gets that very bad. But we've came across a frog, and that's why sometimes it's just worth stopping and looking at the vegetation. You'll find dragonflies and damselflies and other insects and frogs. Now this frog is absolutely minuscule and completely camouflaged. I don't know the species. It's definitely a juvenile. I think it's newly transformed or has made that transition from... Sorry, something's buzzing around my head. Made that transition from tadpole to frog. It doesn't look like an adult whatsoever, but I don't have a monitor. So if any of you do know what species this is, please do let me know. Hashtag WildEarth or @FC. I trust you guys. Well, most of you. But in order to go through that metamorphosis, there's so many changes that I've obviously gone through regularly. But just like insects, frogs do molt their skin. They don't have an exoskeleton, they have an endoskeleton like we do, but they still molt. And they do this in order to grow. But the reason we don't really find frog exoskeletons and frog skin around, is because they normally swallow them. Once they pull it free from the body, which is quite a process, just like reptiles, it doesn't just come off the body in one. it can either come off in patches, or if it's like a snake, it comes off quite slowly, and they swallow it. But in some cases, like the bullfrog, believe it or not, they can actually use the shedded skin as a capsule, and they can hide in that to overcome some dry conditions. Now, that's not too unlike the parrotfish of the coral reef, but they use a spit bubble. A mucus spit bubble that they produce with their mouth, and it encases their entire body, and they actually use that to hide in at night time in the coral reef to mask their sort of scent. Believe it or not, you can pick up chemical cues under the water. So it's not sort of airborne scents, but it's chemicals that travel through the water just as they would through air. So this frog, I think, has got a lot of molting to do before it reaches its full size, but I just don't know the species. I can't get any detail from where I'm sitting. Go in one more time, sorry. I'm not getting that name, sorry, but it does look like a frog gummy sweet. I'm not going to eat it, though. But it does look like that. It doesn't even look real. Imagine if we planted fake animals around for desperate times. It is, I would say it's smaller than the size of my pinky nail. It's very, very small. And of course, dehydration is the frog's worst enemy and biggest fear. Their thin skin is actually permeable to not only oxygen, but also to water. And that's how they survive in aquatic habitats. But it will just dry out continuously as soon as it's sort of exposed to dry conditions. That's why finding a frog sort of in the middle of quarantine is really not a good thing, because there's not a source of water immediately nearby. You want to see them around water bodies, even small little pans. It doesn't have to be a big water body. But they actually have really specialized mucus glands on their skin. And they produce mucus in order to try and keep moist during really dry conditions. Okay, so we're going to bumble south. Kuchava's on Cheetah Plains, but we're going to try Chitwa for Chandy. Wish us luck. And for now, we're going to send you across to another location.
Oh, bumbling is a good thing to do for fighting a leopard. And we've just bumbled into this lovely springbok ram that's been spooked by two wildebeest that came blazing through here chasing each other. Where are you? Well, on that note, my name is Kyle. Good morning, and behind camera is BK. Fantastic to have you here with us here at Tswalu Kalahari. And we are also just bumbling slowly down south. We are actually heading in the direction of a burrow system where we have the meerkats. And we're going to see if we can get a little view of them this morning. Oh, I did shower, so I don't know why he is running. Making it a little challenging for BK this morning. We've had a few birds fly off. We've had some other alarm calls of kudu, but we couldn't locate on what the kudu was alarm calling for. So if you take a look at antelope, they obviously have a very important call, which is an alarm call. So if one individual detects a predator, they will emit this vocalization. And obviously each species has its own unique vocalization. A springbuck would almost sound like a whistle. And then a kudu, like we heard this morning, was this deep bellow, almost tummy bellow. Whoa, very, very distinctive call. But let's start the vehicle. Let's meander here. The sun is just coming over the Coronaberg mountain range, which is fantastic. It is a little bit chilly this morning. BK was going to wear long pants, and I said, you have to wear the shorts. Sorry, he was going to wear the shorts, and that's... Let's go along. Oh, my word. So we are going to be looking for the Makala group this morning. And they are at a nice burrow system where we can get fantastic views just from the vehicle. So the proximity of the burrow from the road is at a great distance that we can still view these animals from the vehicle. So this is where those two wildebeest came blitzing through. So one male was chasing another, and that spooked the springbuck, I think. But one definitely wanted to sort his rival out. Obviously, in some areas they do become territorial, and they demarcate these areas, and they can become quite aggressive, even to females at times. The sun. Those evening temperatures are really starting to feel it in my legs in the morning. But from a chilly situation, let's send you over to Steve to say good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Eco Training Prrivate out here on a very overcast and misty day. It was a little bit of rain this morning before waking up. And hello, everybody. My name is Steve, joined by Gert on camera. And it is a beautiful morning. It is 22 degrees Celsius, 71 degrees Fahrenheit, with a high chance of precipitation. We're joined this morning by a different young fellow. His name is James. James grew up in Singapore, although he's got some South African blood. He's out here to look after us, of course, and make sure everything is going well. So this morning we're going to be moving around in this area. We've driven out to get to a nice signal area so that we can maybe stay on signal for a bit longer. This area is called Red Earth, and have a look. You can actually see why it's called Red Earth. There is some natural erosion taking place here. Some of the erosion might have been due to previous landowner practices. But erosion is a natural process. Remember, erosion is the movement of soil from one place to another. And all of this is soil, it's not rock. So it's down here in a sort of drainage depression. And it would have, over time, slowly disappeared down the river and downstream. A natural sort of thing of events. And we'll do a little bit of time walking around and having a look at the importance of roots, of grasses and trees for holding the soil together, and maybe there'll be some wonderful tracks that we can see. Now, when we were tracking that lioness and her cubs, this is the area that she denned them in, just a little bit upstream from where we are. But we found their tracks yesterday, heading north and going out back into Tshijani. Roger, we don't have students with us on the bushwalks. We just don't really have the capacity to do that. But yeah, it is definitely something to look at in the future. But at the moment, it's myself, Gert, and James, just the three of us. So we make very little noise. We're a very small little group, so it's very easy to keep control. And it's much easier to be quiet and to move around the bush without leaving too much of a trace. Because remember, when you do go on bushwalk, it's all about connecting to nature and leaving nothing but footprints, taking only memories. So we hope to share some memories with you this morning. We hope to delve into the ecology of this small river drainage system. This is what feeds into Leopard Dam, which has become our favorite watering hole. You'll see what wonderful tracks we can find on the way. On our way out, you can't believe it, on our drive here, we found 2 leopards, maybe 3. We only saw 2. But we were setting off for our game walk, so we weren't able to follow up. But first leopards for us on Prrivate, or for me anyway, and for James. Gert's obviously seen a few, been here a bit longer. But we believe it to possibly be the Pixie Pan female and her cubs. Sub-little cubs at that. Hard to say, I only got to see 1 Gert, or 2. It is probably 3. So just a moment of silence to listen to all of the noises around us. Lily, I agree with you. It's wonderful to walk around and to see the different views. I've walked in here a couple of times looking for tracks, but we haven't been able to really access in here. So now the bushwalk is going to enable us to get to all those hard-to-reach places. And we've picked this area specifically today because we know we get good signal, and we know that it's quite open, so we can see quite far. The bush is very thick. We've been leaving camp the last couple of days, and it's taken us an hour to get to signal, and we've been bumping between elephant and buffalo to get there. And as wonderful as that is, we weren't able to get any of it on camera. So hopefully out here with the fresh buffalo tracks we saw on our way in, we might be able to have some luck. But who knows what the bush will present us.
WildEarth is launching a brand new bushwalk from Pridelands. With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
What are you looking at, man? That's its gangster face. It has the manners of a common variety vagabond. Look at it, chewing with its mouth open like that.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everyone. And before we chat about these impalas, did a little bit of research at the watering hole about the hippopotamus and had a bit of a brain fade this morning in pretty much every regard. So the gestation period of hippos is about 7.5 to 8.5 months, and they tend to live in the wild until about 40 years of age. They're plus or minus 40 years of age, and start breeding at about 5 years. And calf every 2 years. 35 years, potentially, probably not going to breed 35 to 40 years, so let's say 30 years, so much more than I thought, way more than the 8 babies that I thought the mother might have in her lifetime, potentially up to even 15 young calves. So there is a much more concise answer, Safari Sister. I hope you caught that all, and you can see these beautiful herd of impala that we're looking at. You see how long that grass is. You can just see their backs where they're feeding, and the sunlight is coming onto them perfectly this morning. So I can just see females for the time being. Oh, there's one male at the back there. So it is a herd of females and one male. There was also a younger male that was in front of us. In this area that we are in now, quite a big open area. It is an old airstrip that was cleared for the previous landowner of andBeyond Ngala, where he could land his private plane and his friends could fly in. And that's why these impala are here this morning. They would have slept here last night, where they've got nice open areas so they can actually see what's around them a little bit better, potentially spotting things like leopards and lions, the nocturnal animals that will be trying to catch them for dinner. You can see their little tails moving every now and then, or trying to move insects and biting flies away. There's another big ram walking through at the back. See how he's moving around. All of the females are feeding and not too worried about life, and the male is quite concerned with where the females are moving. So it's now in March. Most of the babies are starting to wean themselves off the mother from suckling, and it's well, we're going to keep moving around in Ngala, see what we can find, but I think Andrew has found some spots this morning, so we're going to send you over to Djuma.
Thanks, Nikki. Indeed, we found some spotty cat right on top of that tree there. And that's a Kara again. Looks like she's been on the move quite a lot last night there. We're now in Bevlesoek. And looks like she was coming from the north-south now, again. So she got up into that tree while we followed her, so I'm not sure how long she's going to stay there. Maybe it won't be for a long time, because there's still a lot of it. So you're asking if she had a meal recently. But it looks like it's still as yesterday, the tummy. So if she has maybe something small, birds maybe. So yeah, she doesn't look like she eaten enough recently. The weather still allow her to be able to do exercise and hunting quite a lot. Allowed is still. And for that, she may go down and started to do that while we're around with her. Hunting anything from scrub hare, smaller thing as mongoose, the squirrels. I don't have to always go for bigger prey. Alpi, so you say you love this girl. She's so peaceful. Indeed, she is. And she's just so gorgeous. And she's right on top of the tree. It's even a lot better. So we're going to stay put here. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Steve with something to show.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, generally, to try and track down a leopard, it's not always as easy as it is in the Sabi sands where we just find them. We actually physically have to put our nose to the ground, although that side we do it a lot as well, and they leave tracks in the sand, or in this case, the red earth mud. And here's a beautiful track of a male leopard, and you might ask, how on earth do you know it's a male leopard? Well, first of all, you can see the size. This knife of mine here is 10 centimeters. So it's a little bit smaller than the knife, although the mud does help to push. There is the track there from top to bottom. You can easily see the roundish sort of oval toes. And there's this negative space I always talk about that is pinched up like that. But remember, this is quite muddy. And there's beautiful 3 lobes at the back there, which is so easy to see. This would be the perfect kind of track to bring some plaster of Paris and to make a mold. But also bear in mind, here's the back of the pad, the outer bit, and here is the toe. So it's quite wide there. It's about 1 centimeter or so between that and that. Males' front feet are often bigger, are bigger than their back feet, but it's difficult to say where the other foot is here. It's almost as if he stepped on it, because there's a double track in here. He jumped over this little log here and he landed in the mud. You can actually see how he squished the mud back. But to age this is nearly impossible, because this mud obviously stays for a very long time. The tracks of humanoids from very, very long time ago were preserved in mud and then covered with ash, and those are still visible today. So to get the freshness of this is very, very hard. You can see where I've scraped the earth now. It's got this sort of lighter red color, which is very different from this one. There we go, you can see the color in there. It definitely wasn't from today, but to tell you how many days ago, very hard for me to say. Kim, that's about as good as it gets. You know, when we talk about tracks, we talk about identifying tracks. This is about as easy as it comes. Now, when you start becoming a very good tracker, you don't always follow tracks that look like this. You sometimes just see, as I'm going to demonstrate, you just see this mark in the sand where something is walked. You don't see the actual track, you just see the disturbance. And the really good trackers, and that is what they look for, they find animals based on disturbance on the ground, not only tracks. You sometimes see in the movies they show, when they look at some tracks, they show this perfect line of footprints or this perfect line of animal tracks moving through the sand or the mud. And you're like, oh, there, it went this way. In an ideal world, it is like that. And when they walk on very nice, soft, sandy patches or roads, that can be like that. But in an ideal world, in the real world, sometimes you have to work very hard to track these fellows down. But it's wonderful to find them down here in these river run areas, and the habitat along this river run area is perfect leopard habitat for denning, for lions for denning. The lioness had her cubs just up here. We never actually got to see them, but they are still alive. There was a photo posted yesterday of them leaving the night before, so they definitely are still alive, and their tracks headed out. But there's a male leopard who's up and down this area we haven't seen. He's a little bit skittish, but we will try and see if we can find him at one stage. But love the tracks and signs. And the signs that animals leave behind, everybody, are one of the most fascinating things that we talk about out here, because you know the animal has been there, although you might never actually see it. Well, if you want to see a leopard, everybody, we're going to just have to send you back over to Andrew.
Thanks, Steve. Indeed, if you want to see leopard, it's right here. Now we get a slightly closer look. Where she's actually pausing in at branches but looking away from us. But that's not a problem. Anytime she could change any direction she wants. So there's 2 more vehicles in the sighting, as you can hear the talking in the background. also looking at the same sporty animal. Alright, yeah, look at this paw. That's how you can truly tell this is actually a true cat, where attractive claw, always when they have to use them, and this is where they're out. And the cats would control them in and out. They're in there, attracted back into the top of each toe of that cat, its paw print. John again, so you're asking why they don't fall when they're sleeping on top of the tree. So they gotta make sure they're balanced very well when they do that. And the branches has gotta pose very well, just like what you see there. So they never actually do it on a straight branches. They're gonna need very growing lower branches, parallel with the ground, so which is then easy for them to lie in there. So they sleep unconscious when they do that, so they will experience anything happened to their body. But that is also applying the same situation of aiming on hunting, also hearing around them, except for sight. When they just close their eyes, then of course they cannot see. And these tree yards here, these marula trees that she's on top of it now, Yesterday asking how often or how long the leopard remain in the area before they move off. So that could be a situation. There's two situations that sometimes occurred for that. If it's a cub that's raised by the mother, they're gonna remain grown up in the area where the mother operates, or where territory, also the father territory. So once they're independent, this is when they're 2 years old, and they all separate from their mother, but they still need their support from the mother, even though they're independent. Until they're anything from females, you gotta be nearly 4 years, 3.5, before she can move permanently out of her mother's territory. Started to tolerate that time of 4 years upwards. For male, it's got to be slightly longer, dominating from age of 5. That's pretty much for male, young male, when he's grown up to that age. You could even dominate from age of 4, depending on how many other bigger male lions in that area. By moving off that area, they know for sure they won't stay long enough or forever within a mother or a father's territory. that way they get pushed off.
Again. Signal leaving English, I think.
Audit, so you're asking how do they know how to collect a good tree to roost on? So they first check, they look up when they visit trees, the base of the tree, then they check whether the tree is okay for them to climb and rest on. If it's not okay, then they'll move on, find another one. But the more luckily around here, there's a lot of these marula trees, and they're all just so beautiful for a leopard to rest on. Marula tree is the best tree for leopards, and the other trees as well, but they're more luck to be in a marula trees, which is soft tree for them to climb up. But it can't be all the good trees you want or that leopard wants, so they have to make sure that sometimes they spend times moving around until they find the one they want with a beautiful shadow if it's too hot in the day. So going back to that question of how long do they stay in the same area before they move on, we just explained about how from the age younger to an adult. So when they're older, leopards spend only enough time in the same area when he or she has a kill. She would definitely spend 3 or 4 days, depending on how much of a meat that is there. Otherwise, they're more likely to get moved. Even that, she's here. She would. She would definitely gonna move on whenever she wants to. I'm gonna stay put here. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Kyle with something good to show.
The age of the Makala group pups. Well, we have success. We went to the burrow, which they should have been at, and we did a little walk around there, and that burrow is very, very thick. It's very overgrown with the tall grass, and if you think about the safety aspect of when you emerge from a chilly evening like we had, when you emerge, that is a very, very important thing. So ensuring you have a very wide view or a very open view is very important for these meerkats' safety. And that burrow system is very dense. So we did a little walk around there and we didn't see anything, and I said to BK, I don't think they slept here last night. So anyway, we doubled back on our tracks and we came back up here, and boop, we found this one sitting up on top of the tree, and obviously we had located him, but very, very happy that we have. And they've just emerged from the burrow system. Sure. Getting in there. Timothy, how large is this group? This group is 8 at this point in time, if I'm not mistaken. 8 or 9 individuals in this group. It's a fairly smallish group. There's 4 brand new little pups over here. And if you take a look at groups, they can get to quite a sizable number. They can number nearly 30 individuals in a group. Little one baking in the sun. They look very odd in their very early stages. It's almost like they've got to grow into their heads. Their heads look very bulbous when they are young pups. When they emerge at about 3 weeks from the burrow system, they look very strange to me. Their head almost looks overgrown in comparison to their body size. But these little guys are really starting to fill out. And they are very mobile with the parents at this point in time. They will still have a babysitter that is dedicated to them. So one individual will have a babysitter that looks after. And as we go on, the babysitter will give less and less attention and food to this little one, actually stimulating it to start digging and foraging for itself. Because if it doesn't learn this behavior, it could be disastrous in the upcoming months. Because then eventually the parents and then the babysitters will stop provisioning food. And that's when things can get a little tough. So learning how to find food out here is very important. So the digging ability, and then also how to hone your senses, especially your sense of smell. Sonia, are meerkats larger than mongoose? It depends which mongoose species we are talking about. So the mongoose family, Herpestidae, is a very diverse group of carnivores. And you get species which are smaller than your meerkat, and then you get species that are similar in size and weight, and then you get species that are much bigger. For example, if you look at a mongoose, you're looking at about between 600 and 800, maybe 900 grams. And then if you get the banded mongoose, which we don't have in this area, they can be from 1 kilo to about 1.6 kilograms. So it depends on what species we're looking at. So I'd say these guys are in the mid-range of your species. Dwarf mongoose, for example, 200 to about 300 grams. So you can see that's a very small mongoose species. But all these individuals are within this very broad group, Herpestidae, which have a very specialized anal gland that they use for scent marking. Which that animal was busy doing right now. He's dragging his bum there very quickly on the grass and scent marking. Wow, okay, well, we're going to stick with these guys and keep tabs on where they're going so we can obviously enjoy their behavior. But let's send you over to somebody who's got another species of mongoose.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everyone. And look what we have managed to find, a very inquisitive troop of dwarf mongoose. So moving from the meerkats at Tswalu, which we don't get to see in this part of the region ever, to the dwarf mongoose. And you can see how they're very inquisitive with the vehicle, but still very alert. And you see how that one ran off into the grass and coming back out. That's how they will escape predators, by running off into the grass where they can get, or where they can hide away from them. Nice cover. You can see these little one's having a scratch, very inquisitive. Look at those little pink noses, and slowly creeping towards us. It's not a troop of dwarf mongoose that we tend to see very often on andBeyond Ngala. So we've had to just be quite patient this morning. When we first got here, they went running off into the bush. And then as we've sat here and just haven't moved the vehicle, haven't turned it on, they've become very inquisitive to come in and see exactly what we're doing in their home territory. And I've seen maybe about 10 different mongoose here, and that tends to be the average size of a troop of them living in a family unit. And they've come out early this morning. I'm sure they've been foraging for much of the morning. We've seen a couple of them grooming as well. And this time of year, with a large amount of insects and small invertebrates around, that will be their primary source of food that they are looking to try and catch and feed on. Oh, there's one having a little bit of a scratch as well. In Shangaan, they are called machikichoro, which is quite a cute name for these little creatures. Just one left on the road now. I think as they've got closer and closer to the vehicle, some of them haven't been as brave as this one. You can see one other one coming out just behind it. Lovely little creatures to find this morning. Grooming lots and lots, and you can see how this one's standing back on on 4 legs, but they will occasionally stand on 2 legs as well. When we first got here, when they were quite far away, they were up on 2 legs, and you can imagine with the long grass around, they can't see too much if they are down on all 4 legs. So similar to the way the meerkats will stand up and keep a lookout for the rest of the troop, the mongoose will do that as well. So Tyler's asking if we keep track of their populations. So we do know where some of the resident troops live, and a decent number of how many each of them are in the family units, but very, very tricky animals to know exactly how many there are around the property. I mean, to find them, first of all, is quite hard, and then to get an accurate number on the amount of individuals in each troop is also very difficult. So we do know of a few resident troops that have become really quite relaxed with the vehicle. This one, as I mentioned, is not one of them. So it's probably one of the more difficult animals to do a census on and get exact numbers of them. But we do know of a few troops around the property. We're going to keep driving now because they've gone off the road and see if we can find something else. But in this part of the world, and especially the greater Kruger, not so much in Ngala, being part of the Kruger Park, but there are, all the private reserves around here do game censuses, especially for the larger animals, mainly done by helicopter and airplanes. But we're going to keep driving, see what else we can find this morning.
When on safari, there's nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a WildEarth explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
We get asked quite regularly what are the differences between African and Asian elephants. We caught up with Haresh, who's from Leopard Trails, which is based in Sri Lanka.
Of course, size and weight is the first thing you notice. The African elephant is much bigger than the Asian elephant. Tusks in the Asian elephant, it's a very small percentage of male elephants only who have tusks. I was told that there's a theory that the African elephant's ear is in the shape of Africa. The Asian elephant has a much smaller ear. The elephant represents the bush and the jungle in Sri Lanka in a quintessential manner, and I think it's very important that we do whatever we can to protect them.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at andBeyond in Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through andBeyond in Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the drainage of Red Earth, where we found some more tracks, although these ones are not fresh and quite easy to see that. They were in the mud, but they've caked, dried and hard. And the reason why we're going to show you this track is because many people confuse it. Many people get this track confused with the leopard track. And I'm going to detail it while I wait for you to maybe tell me what you think it is. It's a very easy one, in fact. So you can see the size of the knife once again. Let me just get my little pointing stick. A pointing stick. You can see the size of the knife. So the back of the track is over here. Sometimes not always easy to see the lobes here, but have a look at the size of this. This is bigger than the knife, quite clearly so, by about a centimeter or so. The knife is 10 centimeters, so you're looking at about 11. Bearing in mind, these tracks do sometimes change due to the substrate being muddy or sandy. The foot can look a little bit bigger. But if we look down inside, you'll see that this negative space I spoke about before is actually pinched up. It's pinched. It's not like a line around in the leopard. It's these pinches, which leads to very kidney-shaped toes. Very kidney-shaped toes. And between them as well, it's very pinched. Whereas in the leopard track, it was very clear and very obvious, that negative space in between. You hear me use the word negative space. I've explained it before, but it's that little bit of soil in between the toes or in between the hoof of an animal that's not really pushed down and it stands up. Taylor's got it right. Taylor's on the ball this morning. You must be drinking lots of coffee. I'm sure if anybody else got the same answers, Taylor, I'll let the answers come through, but very easy to see the kidney shape. You can't easily see the claws in this one, but if I go back to one of the ones over there, you'll easily see the claw marks, the nail marks. Easily see it there. Now, bearing in mind, this was when it was wet, you can actually see how much of the sediment was picked up on the foot and moved away. So it didn't leave a very clear track in the sand. It left sort of like a peeling of mud off. And this is indeed, Taylor, a hyena. And this one was going in this direction. And then it came back again this direction. So hyenas like to travel on quite similar paths. And this is probably the same hyena looking at the size, but you can easily see the claw marks in here. Depending on substrate, this will look different. Obviously, this track looks quite messy because, as I said, this has been picked up and moved away. So erosion in its finest form on the foot or boots of people or feet of animals, and they move away. So very, very nice to see in the caked mud. Actually see how hard this is. This happened when it was very wet. You can see how hard this is now. The soil has a tendency to bake very hard in the sun and very clay-like, but when it is wet, it's very, very soft and easy to get stuck. Well, let's hope Andrew doesn't get stuck this afternoon, this morning, should I say, as he stays with one of those leopards.
Cool, so we still staying here with our beautiful Cara the leopard. And she hasn't changed the spot there since she's comfortably lying, facing away from us. She only looked at once to these directions, and she's still taking it easy. Maybe it's because she's been on a lot of move last night around here. Jessica, so you're asking if leopard they're smarter than lions. Well, they're both cats. It's so that lions are they in pride, where they form a group. So in Smato now we're going to talk about, I don't know if we have to cover the way of how they get their food easily. And then with the leopard, they're very much solitary animal. And they depend on their own once they separate from their parents. Like right now here, this girl. But in terms of how they stay safe and then how they maintain their life, they're so smart. Because being solitary, and you gotta make sure you survive throughout the other bigger cats, such as the hyenas. So the leopard is smart. They move through a lot of difficult situations. Sometimes they find themselves in a places where there's so many of lions. They get their kill stolen in the middle, they make a kill, and the hyena grab it and take it away. After that, a lot of work she has done or he has done. But they don't give up. They would attempt to hunt again, get another prey species. Oops. So cool how she's just sitting like that. So that even when they're raising their cubs, the female take care of all the duty. And I'm going to stay put, yeah, to see if maybe do something else. And then I'm going to be sending you across to Kyle with the meerkat.
Well, myself and BK would both agree that leopards, by our opinion, that leopards are smarter than that of lions. It's a very, very amazing privilege to be able to follow leopards like the guys, our colleagues on that side of the country do. It's incredible. But then we're also very lucky this side to have these little meerchaps, which are very busy. There's a bit of burrow maintenance going on. Obviously the lookout, making sure that everybody is safe. And then you've got this constant call, this constant, very, very quiet shrilling noise. Brr, brr, brr. And that's basically the young begging for food. It is a continuous thing throughout the day. So sometimes when they move off the burrow system fairly quickly, and then we have to locate them, we can actually find them just by vocalization because of the pups and their constant noise that they make throughout the day. Whoa. One decided to see the soil there, BK. So there's one that looks like it's busy doing some heavy burrow maintenance. You can just see the tail. And that meerkat is quite deep there. And their ability that they have to dig is remarkable. You would have seen that with OB. Why do they forage? Sorry, if I didn't get the viewer's name there, but I think the question was, why do meerkats forage? They need to forage because that's the way in which they find their food. So by moving from the burrow system out into the field and digging into the ground, that is the only way, or one of the most effective ways that these animals will find food. And using their very, very strong sense of smell and then along with their very long claws, digging into the soil to find food. They can find food on the ground. If they walk across a beetle or scorpion, they would definitely give it a go. But digging is a very important tool that is used throughout the day while foraging through the field. And it's really remarkable to see them shift the amount of soil that they do. So we have a few individuals that have just moved off slightly north of the burrow, and there's still one little pup there, just waiting for, I think it might be the babysitter that's doing the burrow maintenance. And this is a very small burrow system. This system was only utilized maybe about a year ago, so it's still expanding and growing as time goes on and as they utilize it more and more in comparison to other burrow systems that we've had the luxury of viewing these meerkats from. Those are very extensive systems that have been used for 10 plus years. Okay, there goes the adult, and that pup should follow suit. Oh, I can hear the alarm call now. He's trying to locate the group. There goes the pup. It's a very, very high-pitched twittering sound. And I'm happy to see meerkats. It's sometimes a very stressful thing when we say we're going to go look for something, and then, you don't know if you have, a good hand to play, and then a little bit of stress sets in. So myself and BK are wiping the sweat off of our forehead, and we are very, very happy. But I want you folks to watch their tails as they move. They just left of us over here now, and it's really beautiful to see the tails erect and how they actually use those tails to follow each other. Let me just turn the vehicle here a little bit for BK. A little bit forward. Sorry. And you can see they've gone from the burrow system to this bush here, and you can see there's a little bit of maintenance going on. Oops, sorry. I'm running ahead of myself. A little bit of maintenance going on here as well, and this would be a bolt hole. So you always want, almost like when we're playing tag or touchies, you want a safety point. So moving from point A to point B, you want to make sure point B there's a burrow or thick bush that you can keep the colony safe at. Wow, look at that. So these young ones are about 40 odd days old, and they still have a lot of growing to do. See as they move how that tail is lifted vertically into the air, and especially through the vegetation now. It's a very important tool. Well, while these meerkats go off into the distance, I think we're going to part with them because they're going to go into fairly thick stuff now. But let's send you over to Steve. It's got some interesting stuff for you.
Well, welcome back everybody to a wonderful area here on Red Earth where we're looking at a little bit of erosion in process, and we talk often about topsoil. We talk often about the removal of topsoil and how it leads to sort of a very different sort of soil underneath, and it's very hard, but it's all eroded down. You can actually see how it's eroded down with the rain. The soft pieces have moved down with the rainfall. But look how important this little plant is on here. How it's holding this little piece together. It's one little carrot seed, which is a pioneer, but a couple of little grass plants here and one little forb are sitting here, and their roots are probably what's holding this entire sort of structure together. And slowly but surely over time, as erosion takes place without vegetation covering, which is a natural process. Bearing in mind, everybody, all the sediment that got put here happened before vegetation, most of it anyway, before vegetation even existed. So when we see erosion, we always think to ourselves this is a very bad thing. Obviously, there are bad agricultural practices that lead to enormous loss of topsoil. It's taken millions of years to create, but it is a natural movement and progression of sediment from the mountains into soil, down the rivers into the ocean. And so this was deposited here under the Earth's oceans many, many, many eons ago, and then vegetation came along and sort of started to anchor it down. But wherever you go around the world, all the geological formations were created a very long time ago. But this is erosion happening in real time, and look at the importance of a little bit of vegetation. You can actually see just off to the side there how the vegetation is holding that topsoil layer there as well. So very, very important to manage areas and to keep the vegetation cover going. As soon as it disappears, you can lead to erosion. But you see lots of stones. All of these did not come from here. These did not come from here. These came from the granite mountain somewhere upstream and were deposited down here. I didn't get Alison's question clearly there. All different types of soil, of rock here. Very, very metamorphic looking rocks here. Very crazy looking crystals all over the place. You dig around and you can find some wonderful stones. Alison, I don't know about any fossils here particularly, but there have been fossils found all over South Africa. In the Kruger Park, I can't think of any offhand that have occurred, but over time, with a changing in what's happening, things will definitely happen like that. But a lot of these areas are very, very new with regards to geology and with regards to sedimentation. And once we dig and find out, we might find the fossils, but we don't want to be going and digging and excavating. But you can see, very interesting, a bird stood over here. A Swansson spurfowl stood here. He was calling because it's nice and high, looking out, and then he jumped down. We'll show you the track in a minute. There is the track of the Swansson spurfowl after doing his thing. And let me come down without hurting myself. And I think that's such a nice track in the sand. Would have sat up there, nice high perch, and then you can actually see how both feet landed. Boop! And then he ran off. So, would have been not so long ago. You can see how fresh the track is there and how he's disturbed the soil just like I've done so. So the spurfowl got 1 toe, 2 toes, 3 toes to the front, and this back toe not always visible in the track, but the whole track entirely is about 7 centimeters. You can almost see how in this foot he doesn't even have a back toe. It's not that it doesn't exist. He probably led with his right foot, which is what happened over there. But with the spurfowl, where's my little stick? Very interesting to see is that this angle here in the normal track is normally about just over 90 degrees when he's walking normally. But because he's landed and he's splayed his foot, is actually splayed out. So spurfowl, normally this would be more like that, just over 90 degrees. Guinea fowl are 90 degrees, these toes, whereas this one is very, very wide because of his movement when he jumped. I can show you that over here in the sand where he walked. I think it was here. Here we go. That's a very good example of that 90-degree toe. Here's the toe, 1, 2, and the front one. Can you see how that over there is a very 90? Is it clear, huh? Not very clear. Walked here, so there's his toe. Is his toe. So that is him walking normally with the front toe over there. There's the nail, and you can't actually see this back toe, but you can see the claw because his back foot is actually back toe is slightly elevated off of the ground because they don't really use their back foot. They use it for perching, but ground birds normally, many ground birds have actually lost this back toe. You look at the ostrich, you look at the korhans, you look at many of the wading birds that walk around a lot. It actually doesn't benefit them having this back toe, but obviously spurfowls still like to perch, they still like to hold themselves in a tree, so that back toe is still used for perching, clinging, and obviously that keeps them safe at night. So quite wonderful how looking at the track of an animal with the claws, the toes, you're able to then detail what they do, how they walk, where they walk, how they stand on things like that, and also that they're able to perch. Okay, well, it seems like we're going to be sending you back over to Andrew with his leopard, who would probably love to snack on our spurfowl.
through, yes. So we got our leopard got down on the ground at the moment. I'm not sure. I'm gonna follow her, see how far she takes us into this wood.
It's the month of March and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
Hello, I'm Marna, your WildEarth Safari Guide from andBeyond Ngala. What I really like about connecting with WildEarth viewers is that we get to speak to viewers instantly and I get to show you this beautiful property. If you want to ask me a question, register on the WildEarth website. Simply head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on WildEarth.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
We are so lucky that they have not moved too far off, and we still have great views of these little active meerkats. There's a lot of foraging going right now, obviously trying to fill up their bellies, finding various sorts of invertebrates, beetles, the larvae of beetles, scorpions, spiders. Obviously their dental structure allows them to chomp down on those little guys. A for effort. You can see the little one basically learned behavior, so practicing what it sees. So the babysitter or the parents, from the activity of being in and around the adult all the time, you can see how it's starting to copy the adult and trying to forage for itself, because the babysitter will give less and less food, and that actually stimulates this young one to really get stuck in. I think it's going to lay down. Wild kid, are these meerkats often followed by snakes? So the pups are especially vulnerable. Oopsie. Wow. So there was an alarm call, and everybody responded very quickly. You could see the lightning quick reflexes there. It sounded like a bird that gave an alarm call, which could be a sneaky bird. It sounded like an alarm call from a fork-tailed drongo, and drongos in the Kalahari have been documented at tricking meerkats. So giving a fake alarm call, the meerkats scatter, and in the mix of things they drop their food. And then that sneaky little fork-tailed drongo will come down and snatch that available prize. Wow, but you could see the lightning quick reflexes that they need in order to survive out here. So these young ones are especially vulnerable to snakes. Obviously they're not as quick and as vigilant as the adults, so that's important while they stay close to the adults all the time. So you might have now and then a snake picking up the scent of a young meerkat and following it, and then unfortunately snacking on it. It's not uncommon for snakes to take meerkats, especially young ones. But aerial birds, so birds of prey, raptors, are their biggest threat. And that's what they need to watch out for. So you can see adults looking up all the time. And that's just checking the skies or the heavens above them. Oh, look in the road quickly, BK. There's 2 shrikes in the road in front of the meerkat. The little one's doing some investigating there. Beautiful crimson-breasted shrike on the left-hand side of picture. They've decided it's playtime now. Yo. Can see the position of the tail is held at a certain angle. So the tail also plays part of communication. Whoa! Practicing for the springboks, tackling there. A little bit of socializing. This is very important behavior, folks. Mark their move very quick. While they're foraging and feeding like this, they go at a very slow pace. Just look in front here, look how the pups are starting to now copy them. Just come a bit forward here, BK. Look at the pups here by this adult. Look how they're copying the adults. So they're watching the adults play, and that's very important behavior because, like Mark mentioned there, they are very, very quick. But that play behavior is only increasing or sharpening their skills on how to dodge and how to grab, how to turn away from a potential threat. And this only happens when you have enough resources. So when there's enough resources around, enough food in your tummy, you can have the time and the luxury to do this. Absolutely fantastic. Wow. So this is not only strengthening bonds, not only sharpening your skills, but it is also strengthening bonds between members of this group. Remember, this is a very, very tight-knit group, and everybody needs to be working together here. So having a bit of playtime like this is very important to do something else except for foraging and looking out for predators. They obviously feel very comfortable here as well. It's a very open area, so nothing is going to sneak up on them, where they can feel comfortable enough to do this behavior. Wow. Yo. And back to work. Can't get distracted too much because that's when things can go wrong. But you can see there now they're practicing fighting now. Whoa. You can see how they're trying to hold and then bite. So as if they were attacking something. They're practicing now. Because they have no other way of practicing. This would be the most important way of practicing those finely tuned skills. What? Sure, a lot of activity. Sure. Yeah, so like Mark mentioned, they are lightning quick. If they really start running and give a little sidestep left and right, that little animal is remarkably quick. And that's also a very important way in how they evade predators. Excuse me, a bird of prey or something lashing out at them, you want that quick lightning reflex. There's a bird giving an alarm call, a shrike coming down there and just shouting at them. Looks like a lesser grey shrike. It's not too happy with the presence of the meerkats. You can hear its alarm call, it's continuous. Your BK doing a fantastic job at keeping on them. Okay, let me get some breakfast. So the abundance of these armored ground katydids now is obviously a viable food source for them, so they will be snacking on them. They do have a noxious, see a bit of marking there by this one in the front. So the adults, I've seen adults numerous times through the season snacking on these armored ground katydids, although they do have a chemical defense, but I think it isn't strong enough to deter these guys. Alright, so from this activity, we're going to send you over to somebody else who's got some great activity for you guys.
Welcome back to a much warmer andBeyond Ngala, everyone. You can see we have found a beautiful herd of blue wildebeest in one of the clearings in the more central part of the reserve. And as we were speaking about it earlier, the very thin layer of clouds is burning off rather quickly this morning, and it's only 8:15 and it's already rather warm. And these wildebeest are out feeding in the clearings this morning. You can see most of them with their heads down, a couple of them looking up and around. But I think they've managed to get through the brunt of the evening and all the worrying about all the predators, and now this morning they're starting to relax a little bit more, feeding and just moving around. It's interesting to watch them. Definitely don't think they're the most intelligent animal, and I don't know if you heard that snort as well coming from one of them. When we did get you, they were alarming at us, which is unusual because they know we are not a threat to them at all. Well, there's one chasing another one, but when they do start to move in a direction, one of them will just decide that they're going to move in a specific direction, and most of the herd then follows. We've been playing cat and mouse a little bit, trying to see where we can best get a view of them. But they're nice and spread out, and when we got you, there were actually a couple of them lying down in the clearings. So getting to the stage already where they're going to be resting this morning. And the lions that we're looking for, I'm just going to roll forward a tiny bit for Odie. We've got a bit of a better view. But the lions that we've been looking for this morning, they have been found. The Birmingham Pride has been found, not the white lions with them, same lions that you would have seen yesterday morning with Fred, I think. And some of the other rangers are spending a bit of time with him this morning, and hopefully we'll get a chance a little bit later. But this would be the perfect prey species for those lions. Considering the amount of mouths to feed, something like an impala will will not suffice that whole pride and all the lions that are in it. So something like a larger wildebeest, a lot more food for them. And with the lack of buffalo around at the moment, that's not really an option for them, as well as the fact that this time of year the buffaloes are in really good condition, considering the amount of nutrients that's in the grass around. They're in good condition, which makes them a lot more difficult for the lions to catch. Whereas these blue wildebeest, although they are large animals, they are a little bit easier to catch. So that comment, it is a rather big herd for this area, although at Ngala we do tend to get quite nice herds of blue wildebeest. This is, I would say, it is one of the bigger herds that we see on the property, but it is not a rare occurrence to see around andBeyond Ngala. We have got beautiful clearings that these wildebeest tend to enjoy spending time in, as well as good grass for them to be feeding on. So probably one of the bigger herds that we have here, but it's not incredibly rare to find groups of wildebeest that are as large as this. Sorry, I'm just getting harassed by flies at the moment, which is, I'm sure, have all come off this herd of blue wildebeest. And again, that's why their tails will be swishing, just trying to get rid of these flies, and their little biting flies as well, which are rather irritating. Beautiful morning, and I'm sure these wildebeest are going to spend the rest of the morning before it gets too hot. Even though it's quite warm now, I'm sure they'll be able to handle the heat. They are built for it, and they'll continue feeding. And then, as you can see behind them, there's quite a few areas that are a little bit thicker with a bit more shade, and that might be the area that they might target to rest for the day. I've just seen one at the back in a little patch of shade lying down. And that's what their day will pretty much consist of. They'll just feed, and then when it gets too hot, they'll go and lie somewhere. What's funny about the wildebeest is chatting about them moving into shade. Sometimes you will see them out in the open as well, lying in the middle of a clearing at the middle of the day when it's the hottest time. And that's because they're quite good at regulating their temperature, as well as the fact that often in those clearings, when there's a little breeze blowing, they tend to prefer that way of cooling down rather than being in the shade. However, these wildebeest that are very static, we're going to move on from them, but we're going to send you over to Andrew, whose leopards are now on the move.
So we got a curry again. She's now on the move, but she just crossed into Djuma, which is just move out of the Beblushoek now. She's busy smelling on the ground. She's even scent marking, which is very interesting. Maybe he found out there's another leopard that has been in this area. So we're just going to move forward. I got to talk to the radio guys. I'm going to give the direction somebody's coming into this area. Yeah, Mark, come to the Beblushoek sign, and we're on the boundary, Beblushoek sign. We're heading west along the boundary.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
So now she's heading the direction of where she usually be. Always be. It's so cool, maybe she'll establish her own territory around. So James, you're asking how long are the tails? It's just gonna keep up with her. So, fully grown leopard would be anything 800, 600, just before a meter long. She's now moving to the wood, but we've got a visual still. They're very much technique animals in hunting. Lana, you're asking if she would recognize her mother? Yes, she would. And she would recognize her father as well, from St. Mark. There's a recognition. It's either from St. Marking, where she come across where the mother has sprayed the urine. She would identify her. Simple is because they communicate through chemical, which is urination, most, even salivating as well. So we're gonna take time to see what this cat is all about. And we're gonna be sending you across to Steve with something interesting to show.
Thanks, Andrew. Well, we're going to be staying in the drainage today and detailing the importance of vegetation as a binding agent for the soil. All the soil is movable, called alluvial soil. Any soil that moves, beach sand, river sand, anywhere that it moves, alluvial, moving. And you can see how the vegetation here is playing its part in holding the soil together. And as we come around the corner, we'll notice how further the vegetation is working and the difference between grass roots as well as tree roots. We talk about that quite often and how grasses have a different root system to that of trees. And when we look down here in the soil profile, that's what's so wonderful about riverbeds and riverbanks, is that it gets cut open for you so you can actually see the profile. You can see these are some grass roots coming down. They don't go very deep. Some of them might go a bit deeper than others. Adventitious roots. So they basically cover a certain depth of the soil. And then your tree roots, for example, this little sickle bush that's growing over here has actually managed to vegetatively pop out a little part of itself from its root, which is very, very cool. We call that suckering. Some plants are able to grow under the ground and pop up elsewhere. It can be quite invasive sometimes, but that's a very, very cool strategy of reproduction. It's the same plant, it's just growing elsewhere. So over here you can see the difference in the roots, and then the adventitious roots get to about this level, and then your tap roots in your trees go much further down. Tap because they're able to tap into the water table. And that's why we talk about when we get sort of soft rain, the grasses benefit because the soft rain penetrates to sort of this sort of depth. And in droughts, you'll notice that we don't get any water here. The water is only down in the water table. So in droughts, grasses do quite badly and trees do well because they're able to access the water deep down underneath. When we get lots of rain, though, you see the grasses do very, very well. We keep coming along. You'll actually see once again another sickle bush pouring itself out of the bank. Yeah, so very important for stabilizing the sides of these riverbeds. And here is actually a sickle bush, probably the same one, perched precariously on the riverbank as the sediment has been washed away underneath. And some of the grass roots there just holding the soil in place. It's a very, very, very important ecological function. Here is one of our pioneer grasses that's pushing through. You can see it's also vegetatively growing. Stolon is above the ground stem that then roots again. See, it's rooted over there. Then it comes down, and each of these little points has the potential to root if it finds earth all the way down to the bottom. And here it has once again found purchase. And then again, look at this. This is another part of that same grass. And we can have a look at it. It looks like our pinhole grass, one of our stink grasses. That's not. Looks like one of the chloruses. You see how good that is at holding. And here once again, where the vegetation's growing, is actually holding the sediment together. So Jamie, if the riverbed floods, well, it's going to push more sediment. It's going to push sediment further downstream. You can actually see this is where the line of water has run. And you can actually see where the sediment has been accumulated. and the vegetation is holding. Even just from the last little bit of rain, these couple of plants over here are holding this sediment together. Obviously, if you get enormous amounts of rainfall and flooding, huge amounts of the sediment will be washed down. This entire plant itself could be dug up and pushed downstream. The power of water is phenomenal. But gentle rains, gentle flowing of streams, you'll see that this actually holds everything together. But the movement of the sediment is quite interesting, because you'll see that the softer particles, they get carried. So the very clay-like particles, the minerals, the nutrients, gets carried further downstream because it's finer, much easier to pick up in solution. And the sandy particles, like this one, much more coarse. You can actually see the granules in there, versus the clay and minerals are generally deposited earlier because they're heavier, they sink to the bottom. But when you get really huge amounts of water, you'll get all of this huge amount of soil will be washed down, and that's actually what gets down to the beaches. But at the same time, the small finer particles, like this one, see there's actually a layer of it there. Those are the first things to be washed downstream. It's why we talk about catenas, we talk about energy flow, nutrient flow from upstream to downstream. Inside these fine particles are minerals, salts, nutrients, which get moved all the way into the ocean, into our estuaries, into our lakes. And the estuaries are designed to try and filter this out so we don't get huge nutrient blooms in the estuaries or in the ocean as well. But nutrient upwelling due to coastal sort of currents takes any of this stuff that's been sedimented at the bottom of the ocean and pushes it up. It leads to huge blooms of life in the ocean. Okay, well, we're going to carry on, see what else we can find and get my hands nice and clean. I'm going to send you over to Kyle.
Alright, well, we still have a great view of these meerkats. They've been harassed by this Cape glossy starling here. And playtime is definitely over. Everybody's looking for food at this point in time. It's lovely when they stick around for a bit longer, where we can view and appreciate this behavior. Otherwise, we only get a short bit at the burrow system and then they move off. But today we are very, very lucky. A bit of wind has come up from the eastern side. That's where all this vegetation is starting to move around, and that's where I think playtime stopped, because obviously the movement of the vegetation, that obviously is a bit tricky. Oh, Rose, do they share their food with each other? Adults? Not a chance. Everybody for themselves out here. So when they're foraging throughout the day, every adult will find its own food. And sharing only happens between adult and pup, especially if you're looking after that pup, and obviously for the beginning period, a month or so. Otherwise, when they're busy finding food, it's everybody for themselves. And they can become quite aggressive if an individual's busy digging up something and it knows that there's a potential item there. If another member of the group gets quite close, you would actually hear the digging individual would utter an aggressive call, and then if the member got a little bit too close, there would be aggression, a little bit of lashing out, a bit of vocalization, and then a quick burst of aggression, then back to its digging behavior. So there's no sharing of food out here. It's a very communal, very, very interlinked system here between each other, defending each other, defending the group as a whole, as an entity, from predators. But when it comes to food, there's no love there. Because you're expending quite a lot of energy. If you think about the energy expense while looking for food per item, it's quite a lot. They've got to really work hard at it. So just giving up your food for another member, you're going to be putting yourself on the back foot. And I don't see why not. I think I've read along the lines that if an individual is sick, they will substitute an individual. But yeah, as a healthy adult, there's no sharing of food out here. Like they're enjoying the road this morning. Oh, that's a dung beetle there. Quite a large dung beetle that they both turned their noses up. And look at that. Shows you just how well equipped they are to shift soil. But from these wonderful mammals and insects, let's send you over to Lauren, who's got a lovely insect for you guys.
Now you're all going to have to help me here. I've spotted a Mahusab spider tucked in the Waltheria indica, which is definitely not what I was originally looking for. And it's sitting on something. Help me, everyone. What's going on? I can't see. I don't have the visuals that you guys have. It's a very big spider. I'm actually not sure which one it is either. But there's a white ball. She's got all her legs wrapped around a white ball. I don't know if it's eggs or if it's food. I really, really have got no sort of visual. And come on, spider experts, help me out here. I mean, all spiders are venomous. Not poisonous, venomous. And they don't all have the equipment or the tools or the appendages to actually inject venom. And some of the venom is so weak that it would never harm us anyway. But at least in South Africa, there's sort of 6 very venomous spiders that you do have to be careful for. And you have the black and brown button spider, and that's neurotoxic. Neurotoxic means the toxin itself is going to attack your central nervous system and eventually affect your brain. That's what it's going to attack. And then you have the baboon spider, which I believe is also neurotoxic. You also get the cytotoxic violet spider, sac spider, and 6-eyed crab spider. And they're the ones you really, really have to worry about. I mean, the neurotoxic ones are said to be the worst. They will affect your heart and your respiratory system, basically the central nervous system. It's going to really go for your core organs. And it's going to sort of give you chest pains, temperature fluctuations, panic attacks, and death. Can result in death, of course. And it will be painful. But a cytotoxic spider, they're going to cause sort of localized ulcerations, if you like, and necrosis of the skin. So it's going to attack the tissue. That's what cytotoxic is. It attacks the skin, the tissue, and the muscles. And naturally, if you've got a wound that's open, can lead to infection. So cytotoxic's very awful. I've seen some really severe injuries with cytotoxic spiders, and ouch, but it won't necessarily kill you. It will scar, may take a long time to heal, but it won't kill you. And the 6-eyed crab spider has actually got the most virulent toxin. So that's the one that's really, really going to damage your tissue. And it's not localized. So what it means by localized is it's not just going to impact the site of the bite, it's going to spread. Do we have any IDs there, FC, on this spider, or possibly what it's doing? I don't have a monitor, I don't have a visual. I'm also a little bit scared to get a little bit too close. So yes, if it's not localized, it spreads. I'm actually going to jump out and pull and have a little look. Otherwise, I do not know what this spider is doing. It's got really long legs, small body, dark. It's sitting on something white. I just wish we could know exactly what that white thing is. It's actually very sweet looking. Spiders have multiple eyes, so it's not compound eyes, it's multiple eyes. Some will have 8, but not all. Some will have 6, some can have more than that. But they do have a lot of eyes on their heads, spiders. So they're not all dangerous, really, even the big scary ones. They're not all going to harm you. They may contain venom, but they might not have the correct tools to actually inject it into you. And remember, venom has to be injected via a bite, a sting, any sort of harpoon. Some conch shells in the ocean have harpoons. Not like poison. Poison is something that can be absorbed through the skin or you ingest it. So if an animal has the poison but no way to inject it, then it's not dangerous. Apparently no IDs so far. I will jump out and take a little photo with my phone later and try and see if I can figure out what it is. But those are the 6 that I mentioned that are really venomous and you really have to be careful. I mean, the violin and the sac are very small, but yet the bite causes so much damage. A trainee we used to have here almost lost this sort of calf muscle. Lisa, you're saying it looks like a wolfie. I'm honestly not sure if I can confirm that right now from the sort of lack of visual I have, but very possible. I've got a juvenile wolfie in my bathroom. We call him Wolfgang. And we're very attached to him. I'm not sure. Could also be a rain spider. I'll definitely check that out for you. I don't think it's a wolf spider, but I will definitely give an ID for you soon. I'm going to jump out and take some photos, and for now, you guys are off to another live location.
WildEarth is launching a brand new bushwalk from Pride Lands. With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
Converging game path will invariably lead you to a water source, but treat all water as suspect. One of my favorite ways of purifying water is to filter out the particulates. And by just filtering it through your sock, you can clear out most of those. You can put water into a snail shell and you can boil it over a fire or using a chemical like chlorine or colloidal silver.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, finding little muddy patches like this where the water has accumulated, it's always very interesting. You can kind of see where we sit is sort of a part of where the river flowed and then stopped, and the sediment all accumulated in here. The water would have dried up. See, this is all the sand. On this side, the heavy stuff stayed. The softer stuff moved through. And where it dried out, you can actually see a little bit further up where the mud has actually cracked and caked. You have to be a very specialized plant to grow in mud because of that cracking and caking and shrinking and swelling that mud goes through. So not many plants can grow in that sort of sediment. Grasses do all right, and certain acacia trees do. But other than that, not many else do. But we stopped here because we found some very, very cool tracks in the mud. And you can actually have a look at the difference between this little mongoose over here and this genet over here. You can actually see the size difference. It's very, very similar in size, but the toes of the genet are very beautiful. It looks like a very small cat. Here is the front foot, and it stepped on the back. Back foot steps on the front. The back pad is sort of 2-lobed, 3-lobed, but it's a beautiful sort of track there. It's about the size of a thumbprint, and you can almost cut it in half. It looks quite symmetrical, whereas the mongoose track, you can see the toes are very long, the nails are very, very present, and if you cut it in half, the symmetry is really not there. One side of it is always longer than the other, quite noticeably, with very sharp sort of claws. This is most likely the track of a dwarf mongoose, because just over here on the left is actually another 2, maybe 3 that have run through here, through the mud. They were probably slipping and sliding. And again, with our hyena track, you can see where they've caked the mud and taken the mud with them. Over here as well, more mud has moved off. And very, very cool. But something that we also wanted to stop and look at. Can you see these little marks over here in the mud? Very, very cool to see. Something's just been scratching there and scraping. And that is most likely the accumulation of mud by a wasp, making a potter sort of nest. These parasitoid wasps that build sort of mud in your house or behind your car seat, and then they fill it with caterpillars or grasshoppers or spiders, and then they inject or lay an egg. After that organism is sort of comatose, and then that egg hatches and eats those organisms alive. So parasitoid is an organism that actually kills its host. Parasite is small and it feeds off something. It doesn't necessarily kill them, but a parasitoid is something that parasites off that organism and ends up killing them completely. Marley, do all predators have 4 toes? Well, as far as I'm aware, you notice it mostly with predators, 4 toes, but the mongoose have actually got 5 on the back foot that are sometimes seen, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely the front foot has got 4. I might be... No, they don't have 5 at all. They don't have 5. Genets, hyenas, lions, leopards, wild dogs all have the 4 toes. I'm thinking of a 5th toe. No, I don't think so. But it's noticeable in primates. You can see the 5th toe, monkeys and baboons. Squirrels, you can see 5. Not that they're predators. That's actually quite an interesting difference between a mongoose sometimes and a squirrel, is that the squirrel's got that sort of 5th sort of toe over there, which obviously helps him for climbing. Here we've got a very cool little beetle or something that ran through here, picked up all the mud. It's like a steam train. Maybe it was indeed the millipede. You see the railway lines running up and down. So nice to see these little muddy wallows and little places to pick up on tracks. Very, very cool. And I wanted to talk about the wasps using this for breeding, and obviously swallows will do something similar. The mud is quite easy to pick up. And then you take that back to your nest and you build. So it's why many of our organisms breed this time of year. Obviously, we talk about weavers all the time. Weavers are here for the grass, the vegetation, and the insects for all the other birds, and the wasps and swallows and the like that breed this time of year. They need the mud, and if there's no rain to produce the mud, well, you're not going to have them breeding. So it's all part of the habitat, and it all falls into the seasonality. Okay, well, it sounds like we're going to be sending you back over to Carl once again to see what he's got.
And active they are. And just mentioned to BK, it's such a privilege this morning that they are remaining so close here for us to continue viewing them over a long period. So everybody is trying to find the next meal. And you can see that one pushing soil out in between the hind legs and making sure that the nose is guiding that animal to where that potential meal is. Yeah. Rich, back to the pups stay with the colony forever. They will be here for a short period, and there is a chance that they will move out, especially if they reach sexual maturity and they would like a chance to breed, to become a mated pair. They would then move off and try and establish themselves somewhere else. But then also you would have individuals moving away from the group when the group becomes too large. When vocal communication becomes a bit of a problem, that's when you'll have individuals breaking away. So the pups would not necessarily stay in this colony forever. You could also have external pressures, such as a predator that can split the group, and they can go off and start things on their own, but they need to be with other members. Because remember, meerkats have a very, very slim chance of survival when it comes to being by themselves. They need members of the colony. So if they do break away, they'll break away as a group, as a small group, to establish themselves in a new area. And it's very tricky. Right now, having group members, there's safety in numbers, there's security, and breaking away from a natal group is a very, very tricky and dangerous task. So, but they'll only break away when they reach maturity. And obviously, being in a group like this, communication is a very, very important thing. So, with only being a few individuals, they can easily communicate with each other. And if you think about meerkats, they can use over 30 different vocalizations, which is quite remarkable. And that'll range from barking to grunting type sounds. But even when that one is busy digging, he'll be uttering a small call just to indicate to other members that he is currently there. Marl, don't they get tired of being on constant alert? Oh, I don't think so. I think they have to do it. It's ingrained in them. Being on lookout and alert all the time is how they survive out here. So maybe the notion, the fear of a threat, that just keeps them stimulated to do that lookout behavior. And you'll find that one individual definitely takes that role throughout the day very, very seriously. And obviously it would be relieved throughout the day so that obviously other individuals can forage. But you'd find that at random, while these meerkats are foraging, they'll also just stand up and just give a little look-see, make sure everything's fine, and then continue on their foraging behavior. Staying vigilant out here is key. Yep, looking up. And you'll find, oh yeah, there's swifts above us. They've got extremely acute eyesight. Sometimes it takes us a minute or so to pick up on an aerial bird. Also, their eyes are very well adapted, but then if you think about those rings around the eye, that's also eliminating glare, so that there's no obstruction for when they need to look up into the sun for a predator. Lovely. And not too far away from each other as well. You can see the distance as BK panned us across there. You can see the distance between individuals isn't great. So obviously the greater the distance, the more chances that you're going to be caught off guard. Awesome. From small carnivores, let's send you over to large hooved ungulates.
Indeed, Carl, thank you so much. So our leopard has disappeared into very tall grasses, and we decided to give it a little bit of a break. But you never know, maybe she'll come out here. We're in a position where if she doesn't change direction, she may come out via Tela main driveway. We now got a beautiful bull, a buffalo. I think it must be the one that was lying in the water yesterday afternoon, or could be the different one. And he's got all those oxpeckers helping him clean all of the ticks that he may have around his body. And it's a perfect shadow there where he is right now. Even though there's a road, but you wouldn't mind, you're probably just going to take it easy, lie down there. And these oxpecker, they're finding an easy access around that animal through these ears. You're asking if buffalo migrate, not like what you're seeing on the wildebeest. Out here, they don't really migrate. But when they cross back to eastern inside of us, that they move in and out of that, and then we sometimes have a few weeks there while they're somewhere else. So there's only a shift they do, but they don't reach that far from here, Samaria or Mara Triangle or anything like that. He looks actually well fit, healthy. He's gonna move off. So it looks like he's gonna move off. There's another vehicle just joined there. See if we can keep a visual, or maybe see if the leopard come our way. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Lauren.
My favorites, everyone. My favorites, a dragonfly. Now again, I can't get enough detail to see the species, but I think it could be a widow. It looks like it could be the female Lucia widow or the Portia, but I think I would say it's more like the Lucia. But please, if I'm wrong, everyone, you are welcome to tell me. I can't get any sort of detail. We're too close for my binos and we're too far from my eyes. But I think it's a female, the yellow and black. The males are blue in the widow family. A stunning dragonfly. And James Richard, thank you so much. You identified the spider as a bandied fish-eating spider sitting on her egg sac. How lovely. Mama spider with all 8 legs curled around her egg sac. Thank goodness I'm not going to be there when they hatch. Now, just behind this dragonfly, have you still got it, Impo? Is a spider. It's an orb spider of sorts. You can see it's hanging upside down in its web, so it's a weaving spider. In that sort of classic X shape. But it's actually very small. So I don't know what species it is, or if it's a juvenile. But there you go. You just need to stop near vegetation in the low veld in summer and you're surrounded. Dragonfly, spiders, damselflies, frogs. The bush is literally pulsating. Oh, the dragonfly's coming back and Paul, look at that. And we sort of touched on insects a little bit last night, for those that were watching, and the importance, even although some do carry disease, even although some harm us, hurt us, bite us, some eat all of our crops, they are still incredibly important. And pesticides is something that's really destroying insects throughout the world. We can't afford to lose our insects by spraying chemicals everywhere. We can't afford to do that. If we lose all our pollinators, we lose everything in terms of all the ecosystems would collapse. And I'm not just talking about one ecosystem. I'm talking about the world's ecosystems. I mean, insects go back to being in fossil records. There's actually a wonderful image, I'll try and see if I can show you it, of coal. And it's a dragonfly, believe it or not, that has sort of fossilized itself in a layer of coal. And it comes from around 300 million years ago, and that's how we know dragonflies were around then. But the oldest sort of existent insect order, if you like, order is a classification, is the fish moths, believe it or not. And they date way before insects developed their wings. As soon as insects developed wings, like this dragonfly here, it meant they could literally colonize the world. They can take over, nothing's stopping them. They can fly. Okay, I'm just going to show you this image, Impo. It's this black and white image here. We can just sort of get a little close-up. This is actually an image of the fossil record. And it's not as continuous as those of vertebrates, the fossil record, but they do have some. And it's just this image here. You can see that it's coal, or a specific layer of coal, and it's dragonflies. It doesn't give a very good sort of scale. You can't tell what size it is. It also doesn't mention that. But you can see right there, from around 300 to 350 million years ago, the fossil records. How nice. I didn't catch that name, but spiders don't really catch, remember. They're not active hunters as such, at least the ones that stay in the web. So if you think about this spider that we have a view of right now, it's designed a web. It spends all of its extra energy, all of its time weaving and creating and building webs made from amino acids that puts together the silk. and they pull their silk out from their spinnerets, specialized glands on their lower abdomen, and they weave using, well, 8 legs. I guess is easier than having 2. And the web is sticky and it's very powerful, and that's to catch their prey. So it's easy. Instead of spending your energy hunting, you're actually spending your energy using a web to catch things. So I can't even see the spider now. I've completely lost it with my eyes. I can't see the web. And neither do flying insects. So in answer to your question, if the dragonfly was to fly into this web, but remember they have got remarkable eyesight, then yes, the spider would eat it. But catching it or hunting it, no. At least not these sort of web-making spiders. There's different, you sort of group spiders in 2 categories, if you like, and one use their web more than the other. Okay, as we bumble a little bit closer to home, breakfast is calling, we are going to send you across to Kyle and his meerkats.
Well, we're still on the lookout. So, being on the lookout is very important. When we saw the meerkats, we actually spotted one of them in a low-laying shrub, or let me correct myself, they're on top of a low-laying shrub. And if you take a look, vantage points are very, very important for a meerkat. So BK is going to show you a brilliant vantage point that a meerkat has on the left-hand side here. Obviously, the increased height gives that animal a bit of an advantage to see further. Because remember, when you are small like a meerkat, if you're on the ground, your visual aspect is really limited. And being set up on a low-laying bush like that, or a branch, or even a termite mound, gives you a very, very, very big advantage. And when you focus at finding food, or you're looking after pups, you don't want to be looking out and around. You need somebody to watch your back. And this is where the communal sense, or the care of meerkats, comes into vital play, and how they survive these areas and also evade predators. So this role is normally played out by a male. Take this role very, very responsive. What is that? And throughout the day now, different individuals will take over this role. So this individual needs to be relieved somewhere throughout the day so that it can have a chance to feed. Oh, excuse me. Nunu, how sharp are meerkats' teeth? They are very sharp. They've got, how can I explain now? A puppy's teeth, as sharp as they are, that's how sharp these meerkats' teeth are. And they've obviously got the dental structure that enables them to bite down and secure. So they've got quite large canines that are obviously used for killing purposes, but very important defending one's territory, which they can become very aggressive with an opposing clan. What a fantastic morning with the meerkats. I don't think I've sat with meerkats for this long in ages. It's wonderful when animals are this relaxed, where they really don't bother. They're not too bothered, about your presence, and where we can view and observe them in this form. So over time, obviously, the guides and staff here in Tswalu have given them the utmost respect, and we've worked this relationship over a very long period. golden-tailed woodpecker calling in the distance. Well, not everybody's fairly alert now. And back to foraging. So an adult can make up to 30 kills per hour. So it shows you the rate at which these animals have to forage, and also because their bodies are fairly small. And if you look at the environment is massive. So they lose a lot of body heat. So they have to continuously keep foraging throughout the day. And 30 prey items per hour, I mean, that is a very, very high rate. And things now going into summer, because the insect activity starts to decline, these animals have to work harder and harder. Melissa, what do they do throughout the day? Let me just move us up here quickly, BK. What else do they do but forage? So take a look at foraging. Takes up 70% of the day. And if they have accumulated all the requirements that they need, all the material that they need, if their tummies are nice and full, through the very, very hot periods, they actually seek shelter under low-lying bushes or even in burrow systems. And through that midday period, they do take a little bit of a siesta. And then if they have, a very successful day at foraging, early afternoon, back to the burrow, and then they just socialize, play around, and enjoy things. Oh, look how far they've moved off now. BK is going to get us lined up here quickly. They've moved off quite far now. Actually moving back towards that burrow system. I think the direction by the adults is obviously determined by the adults over here. Direction through the day's foraging is determined by them. I think they're moving that away, because they've been mulling around on this road for a very long time. So yeah, early afternoon, back to the burrow system, and then they just socialize, play, relax. Some of them snooze at the burrow systems. But keeping vigilance to a high degree and foraging is number one on the cards for these animals. And like all animals, if you got the required material and if you do have the time available, then there's time for socializing and relaxing, grooming. But that's only if you have the required resources. So like I mentioned, now coming into winter, obviously the insect activity drops. So these animals will have to forage so long throughout the day and continuously throughout the day. Thank you, Mother Nature, for this morning. Can really see how tiny those little ones are. I mean, they are minute still. Well, it looks like we're going to lose these meerkats. I'm going to try and wrap around with BK to the other side and see if we can get another little visual of them. But if we lose them, for now, let's send you over to Andrew.
Thanks, Kyle. We also in search here. We wished that really we could stick around for a little longer with our leopard just before it disappeared. But no, unfortunately, they got to hunt for their own food when the weather still allow them to do that. So off she's gone. I mean, we stopped there with the buffalo, hope for her to come out to that direction, but she hasn't. So we're gonna take a last look around on top of this tree, hopefully. If she ever on top of one of these trees, then we're able to find her again. Because she loved climbing trees. So you're asking how is the Tingana doing? From Tingana for the last couple of weeks. So whether he's up in the west, I'm not sure. I'll try find out if the guys ever spot him back there, which I'm sure he's still around. Can't wait to see him coming back here again, because this is also where he spent time operating. When they shift place to another quite often, it allows them to do that by the situation where if it's a lack of a shortage of male in the area, then of course they would occupy such amount of area. But if it's a lot of males in the area, territory can be so small that everybody has to fit within their own territory. Ooh, this is our coolest bird here on the road. Yeah, we often see this bird at night as a bronze wings crosser, and I always mention that they're similar to a lapwing, due to, the way they move and also these little pencil legs. They can fly. Yeah, so you say you like the way it walks. I mean, it is really interesting. Look at that. Oops. It just looks like it's kind of a dancing, but it's actually the way it moves. But it is a nocturnal bird. By chances you find them on a road, it's when they're comfortable, or sometimes they were next to this road. And at night they would chase around flies, this moth, in a type of night flies. You always mainly see one if there are ever two probably mating pair of them there. So we're gonna move on. Critifik, you say this is actually a new bird species for you. That's very good then. So nice to hear that. Yeah, we have them. We have this species of bird here. It's only difficult to see. It's because they're mainly been seen at night. We're so lucky actually come across it during a light like this. sure how far it's going to go, because we always, anytime we move, then it's just also moving as well. And after we're gone, I'm not sure if they will definitely go back to where it was, because they're attracted by the roadways. Now 2 tracks road it's leading. So you mainly find them far from the watering hole. And those are the ones that always find next to the watering hole. These are black Smith lapwings. And those are wood sandpipers. Of course, they hunt around the edge of the watering hole. Kim, you're saying this is a beautiful bird. Indeed, it is a beautiful bird. Compare its body and its leg. It's actually amazing. See how it actually moves. It looks like a dancing kind of action. But one thing for sure, at night they're not a very active bird or clever bird, I might say. They are one of the birds that they wait until things come close to them so much and then they fly it off. So some places where there is no control of the vehicles, there's a lot of these birds have been driven over, and even during the day, because they don't make the road quite easily for everybody to drive past by. So I'm going to carry on doing more of a search here. Hopefully we find anything else to put in ashore.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm here in Northern California.
This is an Anna's hummingbird. We love seeing him because he brings a little magic and energy to our cold, wintry backyard.
In the winter, they politely visit one at a time, but in the summer, they gorge themselves in groups to prepare for their long migration south. As the hummingbirds fly south, over 1 million of these Canadian geese travel the Pacific Flyway from the Arctic to spend the winter with us. They like wetlands and we're in a drought, but they seem pretty happy on the dry bank of Folsom Lake here. This has been a tough year everywhere, but one good thing was we found WildEarth, who encouraged us to relieve our stress through nature. There's a saying that
a distraction is momentary, an escape helps you heal.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the live safari page, and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
Well, we've came across one of the most common, but the bestest species out here in the low veld. The impala. We're actually right outside camp. And the impala are always here. This is obviously their safety zone. It's a large herd, more eyes, more ears, more nostrils. Impo, just quickly, this oxpecker on the ground ahead is actually anting, which is exactly what I was doing. Oh, I flew off. I was anting for you all yesterday. And that's what that little oxpecker was doing, but he's just flown off, sadly. And just quickly, James Richard, thank you. And pizza for breakfast. Why do you need to call yourself pizza for breakfast? All I think about is pizza now. I hope we have some pizza for breakfast. I'm hungry. But yes, it was the Lucia widow. I thought so, but the Portia widow is very, very similar. Just not as much sort of black and brown coloration on the wings. And of course it was a female. So thank you both. Our superhero tech man Marcel will fix the monitors, and I'll be back in the game when it comes to looking at the small detail. Now some of the grassies are just longer than the impala here, or taller, whichever word you want to use. Quarantine is just... can you imagine doing bushwalk here? How incredible. Now, I do hope this afternoon the hyena den will be active. That's exactly where I'm going to spend most of my time. And one day it's going to be active. It has been active, but just not with the adults. The adults are probably all hunting or waiting at the bottom of a tree as a leopard is up the top of the tree. Either way, I'll do my very, very best to try and spend some time with the Djuma clan. I'm missing them terribly. But it has come to that time in the morning where A, I want pizza for breakfast, and B, we must say goodbye. But thank you everyone for jumping on board. It's been an absolute pleasure to take you all on a bumble, and we do hope that you join us this afternoon. So have a great day. Bye for now.